everyone, and welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another Women of Horror Spotlight. Today, I have with us, she's an author, and she has a new book out right now. Anywhere you can find books, including Raw Dog Screaming Press, I have with us, and it's called 12 Hours, by the way. I have with us Lisa Wood. Lisa, welcome to the Horror Room.
Hi, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure having you on. So
thank
tell
you.
us, you're welcome. So please tell us a little bit about 12 Hours.
Well, 12 Hours is book 2 of the Raw Dog Screaming Press novella series that has a longer name than what I'm going to have to look at it. I'm looking at the cover right now. I'm going to look at this name. It's called The Selected Papers from the Consortium for the Study of Anomalous Phenomena. It's a mouthful.
It is.
Right, but the title of this specific novella is called 12 Hours. And it is really a couple of hours in the mind of an individual that is going through something, and that's putting it lightly. You know, we stream of conscious novels are ones where we just kind of dive into the main character and we live there in that space. So that's what we're doing in this novella. We're going to experience everything he experiences, and that really means running the gamut of all of the, human emotions possible and trying to help him solve a mystery.
Whoa. Now, how long did it take you to come up with this concept for the story?
Well, I saw the call for submission, and I just a couple of minutes and thought through what would I like to do with this. I'm a psychological horror author, so thinking along these kinds of lines is kind of where I sit all the time. And so I like the idea of exploring, the what ifs. And having this, I wanted to do something quick, something I could do that didn't have a lot of characters, something I could do in short form, because I'm a flash writer, flash fiction, or I'm a novelist. So this novella word count is not my usual space. So I wanted to think of something that I could expand upon outside of a short story like a flash, but not turn into a full novel. And I came up with the idea. It didn't take very long at all.
Now, is it easier to do a novella compared to a full-length novel?
I don't know about easier. They're kind of different animals, really. I also write screenplays, and so screenplays are probably closer linked to novellas in terms of being able to set the story up and have a sort of a pace that gets you to a specific point, but not some full-length novel. Often when you have those full-length novels, you have a lot of, I don't want to call it fluff, but that's what it is. It's flowery language, and we have a lot of space to be able to develop, scenery and scenario and conflict and things like that. So with a novella, you've got to get to the point a little bit faster than you normally would with a novel. And like I said before, I'm a flash fiction author as well. So I'm used to either really short or long, So in essence, easy is not a word I would use for any of it, to be honest with you. I think novel writing is hard. I think novella writing is hard. Short stories are hard. Screenplays are hard. Poetry is hard. So easy is not what I'd say, but different. It's different, definitely.
Because I can imagine, like, with even like a short film or even a short novella, like compared to full length, you have a lot of time, like you said, for the fluff. You have a lot of time to build the character development.
Right.
With a novella, you got to hit those pieces, boom, 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 in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine that has its own challenges.
But it's not as quick as you think. A novella has a decent word count range. So if you're used to writing short fiction, like Flash, and Flash will go, depending on where you look, right? You can hear that Flash fiction is 1,000 words or less, or you can hear 1,500 words or less. I think I subscribe to the 1,000 words or less definition, but that's fast. Now that's fast. That's having to hit the beats quickly. So a novella that allows you around 20-something thousand words at a minimum, that's a lot of words. So,
that is a lot of words.
You know what I mean? So it's not as quick as you might think it is, depending upon how you write your short stories. If you write short stories and they could literally be 8, 9, 10,000 word stories, then it does feel a little bit fast. I always start, I think with everything almost, even with the novels, I kind of start right in the middle, in media res. I just kind of, the action, we're hitting the ground running, which is odd to say as a psychological horror author, because that's considered sort of quiet, but quiet doesn't mean slow, if you will. Quiet just means we don't have blood and guts everywhere. At least not immediately, right? I may suggest the blood and guts to you as opposed to showing you the blood and guts. But, it's so for me, I start in the middle anyway. So that cuts away a lot of that exposition. It cuts away a lot of that build. And I'm already in the mindset of running. So for writing shorter works, I have to kind of decide where that middle or where the action should begin, because I could run right past it and it's almost too quick, because I'm thinking novel, because it's 20,000 words in my head. We're leaning towards a novel. So I've got to actually slow down to write a novella that doesn't move too fast.
Now you are a psychological horror writer, author.
I am. Mm-hmm.
Now, did you always start doing psychological horror? Is that where you've always been into horror? Right.
Yeah. 5 years old. It's my poor grandmother and mother. Just
Were they like, what's wrong with her?
I could see it on their faces, but they didn't say that. They didn't say it. And that's beautiful. I think that's the thing that I really wish that for every author, to have somebody in your corner who's not going, that's a little strange. Because, this is what comes up. If you're writing, you got to write what you feel. You got to write what you like. And sometimes that's romance. Sometimes that's mystery. Sometimes it's horror. And I like movies that are psychological horror. That's what I like. You know what I mean? So it's not even a surprise to anyone that I don't want to be told the whole thing outright in anything. I used to love Hitchcock and I was like 7. So it's the way that I like to look at and process storytelling. And it's always been dark. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm 41, so I'm getting up. I'm getting up there.
You're not getting up there. I have you.
Oh, okay.
Trust me, you're not getting up there.
But okay, so the generation that's coming, after me and even behind me, they do not have they do not have that attention span for the slow burn. And that's why you see a lot more horror authors, and even horror filmmakers.
Yeah.
They're getting right to the gusto, boom, 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 because if not, they will check out. Is that something that you're worried about with the times changing and the attention span?
I've been writing for a long time. Like, we just talked about me starting at 5, and I just told everybody I'm older than you. So therefore, I've been writing for a really long time. And I've been publishing since the late 90s, early 2000s. So am I worried about it? Sure. But the fact is, I chose the horror genre in a general sense. So I should always be worried about something, because horror falls in and out of favor all the time. And then, so you gotta, it all depends. I'm going to put it this way. Individually, we have to decide what success is. Success could mean money. And if it does for you authors out there, I would urge you to reconsider. Writing is not one of those careers where you can guarantee that money, that payday. And, I'm not saying you're not going to get money, but I'm saying you may not be, the billionaire that you'd like to be. And unfortunately, there was a time when people could really get, I'm not saying nobody gets large dollar contracts, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be. Good God, the 80s were fantastic, and I wasn't publishing then, so that's what it is. But, now, you really just with self-publishing being out there, so many small presses, so many, different ways to get your fiction out there, aside from the larger houses, there's a lot of competition. So I would urge you to think about what your goal for success is. That said, you have to decide what success means. If success means, writing, selling a lot of books, selling so many books and all the money, you might need to write to market. Is that easy? No, unless you have a crystal ball. It's just really not. And it may not be what you think you want to write. So you have to make a decision about what you're doing with your craft. At the same time, we should always be learning. So you should never feel like you've got it all in the bag. I teach creative writing, but I don't always feel like I have it in the bag. So if you're always evolving and you're writing the thing you really want to write, that nervousness is just going to sit in the back of your mind. It's just part and parcel of what we do. Because again, it's not the genre, or there maybe are two that are pretty tried and true. It's not one of those. Those ones, like romance, is always going to find an audience. Always. Period. I mean, it's just what it is. And mystery is always going to find an audience. I'd even say 3, contemporary fiction always has an audience. People really like reading stories about things that could happen realistically in life to characters. So therefore, if you're not writing that, then you already have something to worry about. So this psychological horror versus extreme horror, that's something we always deal with, right? I think that when I tell people I write psychological horror, I'm sorry this answer's so long, Travis, but I think it's kind of important.
This is a good answer.
So here, okay. But if you when people say horror, like outside of our bubble of writing and publishing and all that, just go out in the world and talk to anybody and say you're a horror author. Immediately they think you mean slasher, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. That's all they think, because that's what it looks like to them. Oh, that or say something satanic, right? That's all that it looks like. So we're already behind the 8 ball if you're not writing in one of those genres. So if you're extreme and visceral horror, you might be doing okay, except they don't necessarily want to read that because they're looking at it going, oh, you write this. That's not, I'm not saying they like it. They just identify it. Quiet psychological horror doesn't even get identified. So what do I think? I think that's a bummer, but I write it because that's what I write. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's who I am. Can I write visceral? Sure. Every now and then. A psychological horror doesn't mean you never have some visceral things happening. It just happens, and the story comes around to it in a different way. So for me, the landscape always looks this way. So there's nothing to worry about it. If I were going to worry, I would have made a different decision long ago.
And one thing you said about horror is absolutely true. As I'm a horror connoisseur, and I'm a horror historian, I would like to say.
Nice.
And this is this is horror since the beginning of time. This is what horror, the genre does. Yep. It goes down, and it comes back up, and it goes down, and it does it I would say, 4 to 5 years. The horror genre has a big boom of creatives, new ideas, and then you have a lot of people copying off of that, and then that's what causes it to dip.
Yep. I don't know if I would have said 4 to 5 years. I would have thought 10, maybe. I don't know, because
I was saying 10 for a while, but I've noticed the time frame is shortening.
That's good to hear, right?
Yeah.
And I think what always pulls it back out of the depth, and you tell me because you're the historian, I would say it's a vampire that always yanks it back. All of a sudden, everybody's still interested in a vampire. What do you think?
Yeah, see, but here's the thing. I think that the Twilight series kind of killed the vampire for a long time. And I also think The Walking Dead did the same thing to zombies.
Yeah. But you know what I think? If I could interject there, I got to say something about that. We say that frequently when we talk about vampires because there's some purists, and I don't know that I'm not one. I'm not sure that I can, but at the same time, I don't think that Stephenie Meyer's vampires were supposed to be intended for the horror purists. That's paranormal romance. And we are making the mistake of trying to call it horror when it wasn't.
No, but what happened was a lot of horror filmmakers jumped on that. They saw the success of that. And then they started making all these TV shows and other horror movies going after that group. And it kind of watered down. And that's why you don't see that many vampire movies. You haven't seen a vampire movie in the last couple of years because I think people are afraid to touch it right now. Now, that will change. That definitely will change. And I think next year, the new Dracula movie comes out. I think that's going to change it. But I see this with horror movies all the time, especially even like I said with some of zombie movies. Zombies, you had the Night of the Living Dead, and there was a big flux of zombies in the 80s into the 90s.
Yep.
And then it got overboard, it got killed to death. Boom. Yeah. And then The Walking Dead came out and kind of resurged it. And then seeing zombies everywhere. Boom, boom, boom. Killed it.
Yep.
And no one wants to touch a zombie movie right now.
Which is sad. I think zombies are fun. I think
They are.
vampires are better. And I'll tell you why I say that.
Me too.
Zombies are brainless. I mean, they're doing their thing. Right? They're doing what they're intended to do, which is neat. But,
Yes.
I think when they added the running zombie, that was a nice addition. The 28 days later zombie. And that was a little, don't run at me. That's my issue. So anyway, don't run at me.
Yes.
But I think that the vampire, the concern with the vampire is that you can make the vampire sexy or frightening.
You can.
And when you decide to combine it, you've got to be careful, because I think it can work. You just have to be very careful about how you display it, because if he or she, it doesn't matter, is sexy and then turns frightening, good, but frightening to sexy is literally not good. And I think that sometimes there's a confusion, you know what I mean? And
There is a confusion.
so when we watch it on film, I think there's too much confusion. But when we read it, like we think about the whole Anne Rice's entire series in Lestat, and we fell in love with him because he was just everything. He was not a nice vampire, but he was also, this tragic, and you have to be able to relate to something, the humanity in some of it, and there has to be this element of attraction to make vampires work. But when they do work, I think they work better than almost any of the other antagonists, because a ghost is almost always going to frighten you, and a zombie is brainless. Werewolf, I mean, I don't know. I don't really. That's my least favorite.
If anybody asks me, when people ask me right now, what kind of monster or killer or whatever would I be, I go to vampire all the time, because vampire is the sexiest monster to be. I mean,
absolutely,
it's you're a great lover. You live forever. I mean, the party scene. You're smart. You're strong. I mean, what you have all. You can charm the pants off of people with mind control.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can still talk. That was working for me. Yeah, I don't understand why anyone would ever choose anything else, because you keep your form at its perfect state.
Yes, never age.
Just stay out of the sun. I mean, really, I don't know what we're dealing with here. I don't know. I would never choose anything other than that. But I think that I don't want to say problem, because I think it works for paranormal romance. Vampires, because a lot of the writers there use a lot of the same horror antagonists in their work, and they're just the intent is different. Whereas in horror, we're intending to frighten, and in paranormal romance, they're whatever's going on. It's a whole different thing, and so therefore, you're not. It's not scary. Well, it's dangerous, but it's not scary. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and that's the beauty. And I think that maybe I would like to see the vampire be frightening, the sexuality be the thing that leads to the. I don't know. I don't want the two to exist at the same time, but I definitely want there to be less of the sexuality and more of the fear. Yeah. But I don't want it to look like Nosferatu. Like, that was too much. Yeah. that was entirely too much.
But like True Blood, by the way, I was a huge fan of True Blood. I didn't watch the final 2 seasons because I think it jumped the shark. I didn't ever finish it. But True Blood had that good mix of violence and sexuality, and also character development. You kind of related to the character, you've seen them. And when a horror creator, whether it be an author or a filmmaker, can make the audience relate to the villain, I mean, they're knocking a home run.
That's right. I haven't read it though. I want to read the series. I only have book 1 here, but I haven't read it yet. But it's the show was fantastic, just magnificent. I loved it so much. I did. And to be fair, I actually really did like I read the first 2. Did I read all 3? I think I did read all 3 Twilight books, and I saw the movies. I liked them. You just have to realize you're looking at something different. It's not horror fiction. You're looking at something else.
I tried because I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to movies or cinema. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty open-minded. If somebody asks me like one of my favorite movies all the time is 500 Days of Summer, and that's a romantic comedy.
Okay.
And so I have a huge. I'm not closed-minded. Like horror, I love horror. Horror is probably my favorite genre. But like, if you ask me my top 10 favorite movies, there's probably 1 or 2 horror movies in that top 10. Mm-hmm. But But no, I mean, I gave Twilight a try, and like, I just couldn't get into it.
It didn't
was
work.
just like, I think that I was the wrong demographic for that movie.
Maybe so. By the third movie, I knew I was the wrong demographic.
I knew by the first one.
But I will tell you, I'll suggest a psychological horror movie, and it might be billed as psychological thriller, but try Angel Heart from, I want to say, 86 or 87. Angel Heart, Mickey Rourke.
Angel Heart. Why do I feel like I'm writing this down?
Lisa Bonet. Yeah, it's a fantastic. No. And there's a book. The book is called Fallen Angel. Falling Angel. Okay.
I'm writing this one down.
Really, 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 really good.
Now I'm gonna recommend one for you. It's I think it's still on Tubi. This is an indie horror movie that came out last year. It was amazing, and it was called 1BR. Watch that. It is a psychological. There's no gore hardly, but there's definitely killing. It's called 1BR.
1BR.
1BR. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And it is. I put that movie last year up against any big name movie, and I think it would have won. Like, it was so good, and like, it got on Netflix too. So for any horror movie to get on Netflix, and it was the #1 stream movie for that week, it was big. It was big, and yeah, 1BR. Check that out. Anybody who's watching, 1BR is amazing.
Okay, I'll check it out. I wrote it down. Thank you.
Okay, now let's shoot over to. Also, you do have the Realm series, which is right behind you as well. It's a trilogy.
Oh, north side.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about the Realm series.
So it's interesting. I in horror fiction, we don't really write trilogies and a whole bunch of series. That's more fantasy and certain subgenres of science fiction. But it's funny, my publisher at the time was challenging me to do it, and I thought, well, why not? I'm always up for a challenge. So I wrote, I'd originally written The Realm, and it was about a guy wakes up dead. That's funny the way it sounds, but he wakes up and he's died, right? And he's having to navigate the afterlife because it's not at all what he thought it was going to be. All the stuff he thought he knew was 100% wrong. And he can't even get to finish his thought before he has to run, because now in this new place in the realm, he's prey. So he's running the whole movie, because in my head, it's like a movie. But he's running the whole book, and he's trying to figure out how to, A, get himself out, B, how to save his family from befalling the same fate. And then C, trying to figure out who's behind all this. And it's action packed. I would call it a multi-genre, because it's got a little sci-fi in there for alternate reality type stuff. It's got psychological horror there, and it has a great deal of action. So nice. I definitely think that it's one of those, if you like a thriller, edge of your seat kind of thing, this is the series. It really moves quickly, and we watch the main character, Patrick, trying to figure out how to save his family. So at its core, it's a story about, trying to save your family and in turn save perhaps even the world. But you've got to run first and hide before that happens.
Now, what were the challenges in writing series?
Well, because my brain doesn't work like that as a horror author. It's one and done. You get to you beat the baddie in the middle or towards the end, and then you got to close the book. It's done. So I had to wrap my mind around having a continuing story and not killing everybody so that the book was finished.
Yeah, no, you can't do that, right?
Somebody live for the next book. Yeah. But that was a challenge, because I don't think that way. It was interesting, definitely. I got to see how the other side lives for a little while there, and it was fun.
Awesome. Now, Lisa, where can everyone find you?
When you look me up, I'm sorry?
In your books.
In my books. When you look me up, you're going to find me as Elle Marie Wood. And so you can go to elmariewood.com. That's my website. Or you can find me on Amazon. I've got like an author page. It's also Elle Marie Wood. And the books are available everywhere. So you can, you might be able to duck into your own local bookstore and find some. You can look online, look at any BNN online. Some of them are on Target online, so you can find that.
Oh, nice.
Anywhere. Walmart as well. So yeah, you can look around and find some of those things, and definitely Amazon. Prime is a beautiful thing at times, is it not? So some of the books are an audiobook, and you can find them on Audible. Let's see, what's in audio? Okay, so the Crescendo. We talk so much about vampires. I actually have a vampire novel called The Promise Keeper, which is, I don't write vampire stuff very much, but it's a psychological horror vampire, so I've played with it. The Crescendo and Promise Keeper, Telecommuting, those are in audio form, as well as I keep pointing the wrong way. The Realm series is also an audiobook. So if you like to listen to your work your books when you're doing some work or driving or something like that, then those are available to you.
Listen, everybody, get out there and listen. Look up Elle Marie Wood, The Realm, 12 Hours. Also, get over to Royal Dog Screaming Press as well, and their website is down in the description box. You can click on that, and it's from the bottom as well. Elle Marie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation, Travis. Thank you.
You too. I want to have you back on again because I want to ask you some questions about what are your views of self-publishing. But
okay, sure.
As for the next one, yes.
Excellent.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce. That's Elle Marie Wood. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.